Not so long ago, Gran Turismo was one of the most sought after racing game series, with every single entry selling millions and getting rave reviews. In recent times, however, things have started to go downhill, as fan opinion has gradually gone down, and since the recent release and subsequent updates of Gran Turismo 7, opinions have been at an all-time low. So the question is, what went wrong for the series? Sit back and enjoy, while I take you on a journey through what made Gran Turismo so great to start with, and what caused the downfall of the series. The series started in 1997, with Gran Turismo releasing exclusively to the PlayStation 1. The game was met with critical acclaim for how realistic it felt and the incredible graphics for the time. In addition, IGN commented on the amazing replays that occur after you finish the race, with this being a revolutionary addition for a game made 25 years ago. This all led to the game getting a 96 overall on Metacritic, making it one of the highest rated games of all time. I, however, have not played the first Gran Turismo game. I am too young to have played it at release, and it is becoming increasingly hard to find in good condition, despite its monumental 10.85 million copies sold, making it the best-selling game on the PlayStation. I did manage to play its sequel though. Gran Turismo 2 was released in 1999, 2 years after the first entry. This game also received glowing reviews, averaging a 93 on Metacritic as a result of its improved braking mechanics, as well as the heavily expanded number of courses, cars, and races within the game. It was also a commercial success, selling 9.37 million copies worldwide. Playing this game, it is easy to forget that it's on a console that is 28 years old. The graphics are truly incredible for the time, and the controls aren't so bad either, especially for the first 3D console generation. This game is honestly one of the greatest I've ever played, but the best was still to come. After the release of the PlayStation 2 in 2000, Gran Turismo was the series everyone was waiting for. And they didn't have to wait long. Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec was released in 2001. The game was a massive success commercially, with this entry becoming the best-selling game in the series, with a whopping 14.89 million copies sold. The game also received very positive reviews from critics, with this entry having a score of 95 on Metacritic. The new hardware worked wonders for the graphics, as this game truly was next generation for the time. IGN commented on the light shining on the road and reflecting off the glass in a way they'd not seen from a game before. The realism in this title was something people hadn't seen before, and the controls were much more responsive and felt far more realistic than its competitors at the time. The game was a masterpiece, and it is honestly one of the best games of the generation, if not one of the best ever made. While it's not a mainline entry, one of my favourite games in the series is actually the side entry, Gran Turismo Concept 2002 Tokyo Geneva. This was part of the Gran Turismo Concept line, of which there were 3 entries: Tokyo, Tokyo Seoul, and Tokyo Geneva. None of these entries were released in North America, with only Tokyo Geneva making it to Europe. This game featured all the cars from the Tokyo, Seoul, and Geneva motor shows of 2001, with cars such as the Nissan GTR Concept 01, the Volkswagen W12, and the Ford GT40 LM Edition. While this game was only a secondary release, it still sold over 1 million copies, and it holds a special place in my heart, as there was something special about seeing all these concept cars together in a game, especially as a child. I love this game, but what came next blew me away even more. Gran Turismo 4 was the next entry in the series, This was the first game in the series I actually owned myself, and I played it to death, despite being awful at it. The game has graphics which to this day amaze me for a game made in 2004. This is the game that got me into racing games, and I still own it even after so many years. The game had over 700 cars, spanning all the way from the 1886 Daimler motor carriage to the 2022 Nike One concept. The game also featured a camera mode, which you could take in-game pictures on and export them at a resolution of up to 1280 by 960. The review scores were not as high overall as the other entries, with this one only getting an 89, but I feel it was a massive upgrade in terms of quality and quantity. The game also sold a staggering 11.76 million copies, the third highest in the series. Now I could make an entire video on how much I like this game, but for now we must move on to the next entry, which took a big step up. Gran Turismo 5 released in 2010, 3 years after Gran Turismo 5 Prologue debuted. This was the first full Gran Turismo game of the HD era. The graphics in this game were a big step up for the series, but suffered from corner cutting in places, with jagged edges around the shadows, and some car textures looking like they've been ported directly from Gran Turismo 4. The immersion was also broken by some very low resolution backgrounds, with the low res crowds becoming somewhat of a joke amongst fans. This was however the first entry in the series to have an online mode, with it supporting online races of up to 16 people. Another major addition with this title was damage to the cars, which certainly made 7-year-old me happy at least. The game featured over 1,000 cars and 81 tracks, which is truly amazing even by today's standards. This game truly was amazing despite the corner cutting, and the sales showed this too, with the game selling around 12 million copies. The reviews were also good, but not as good as previous entries, only getting an 84 on Metacritic this time round. So this was an all-time high for the series, but in hindsight, it was also the beginning of the end. Gran Turismo 6 was released in December 2013 on the PlayStation 3. An instant issue that can be seen is that it was released after the PlayStation 4, but there was never a port made for the new console. The game itself got generally favourable reviews, with an 81 overall on Metacritic, but this is quite a way off the early to mid 2000s scores the series received. The familiar gripes of the series, such as dated car selection, damage modelling, and sound, were not rectified, leading to lower scores all round. It wasn't all bad with this release though, as the game had a staggering 1,237 cars, which is the most cars to feature in any racing game ever made. Along with this, one of the game's many tracks is very unique, as it's on the moon. The graphics of the game were also widely applauded, with the stunning scenery around the tracks, and the divide between the standard and premium cars not being as bad as Gran Turismo 5. However, the sales didn't fare so well as a result of the late release date, with it selling only 5.22 million copies. That number is still impressive, but it's only around half of what all the previous entries sold. In my opinion, Gran Turismo 6 was a good game, released at the wrong time. It's not great, but there's nothing inherently bad to me. So what else went wrong for the series? 4 years later, in 2017, Gran Turismo Sport was released. The game's graphics were once again applauded, but the score of only 75 on Metacritic showed not all was good. The car choice was far more limited, with the 168 cars at launch being the lowest number since the first entry in 1997. The track choice wasn't so good either, with the 29 tracks at launch being the lowest since Gran Turismo 3. While updates did gradually bring more cars and tracks, putting the final numbers up to 338 cars and 60 tracks, people felt cheated, as this was a full-price game in 2017, with less content than near 20-year-old games. The almost constant internet connection required turned a lot of players off the game as well, with arcade mode being the only mode that worked offline. Not all was bad, however. The sound issues that had plagued the series were finally addressed, and the online mode the game was relying on was a large success. The initial issues did turn some suitors away though, with this entry selling 8 million copies. A good improvement from the previous entry, but still not quite at the peak numbers. After revisiting this game, the gameplay is great, and the graphics are outstanding, but it does feel like there is something missing. The lowered amount of cars is very noticeable, with the marketplace not being as abundant as the ones I remember on the PlayStation 2. In all honesty, I do feel that the score of 75 is a little bit low, but considering how much content has been added over the past 5 years, and the fact it still feels somewhat empty, I can see why it's that low. The falling sales and ratings were somewhat alarming for the series overall, and something needed to be done for the sake of the series. In March of 2022, Gran Turismo 7 was released. At launch, the feedback was rather positive, with the game getting a critic score of 87 on Metacritic, the highest the series had seen since Gran Turismo 4. The amount of in-game content had also seen a rise from Gran Turismo Sport, with this game having 425 cars and 63 tracks. The gameplay, graphics, and nostalgia were all greatly applauded. So how did this happen? There is a simple answer to this. Microtransactions. The system for microtransactions has been greatly changed from Gran Turismo Sport. In the previous entry, you could purchase any car priced up to 2 million in-game credits for real money instead, with prices ranging from 79 pence to £3.99 per car. Gran Turismo 7 has it so you buy the in-game credits at a crazy markup, with 2 million credits now costing £15.99. Since the most expensive car in the game costs 20 million credits, this means that it would cost roughly £160. This is bad enough as is, but then the most recent update happened. This recent update cut the amount of credits you get for each race, which in itself is annoying, but then you add this onto the already crazy credit prices, and you have yourself a classic pay-to-win game. This led to Gran Turismo 7 having the lowest public score of any PlayStation exclusive in history, with a 1.7 on Metacritic at the time of recording. But it's not all bad news. On Friday the 25th of March, Kazunori Yamauchi, the president of Polyphony Digital and creator of Gran Turismo, released a statement regarding the recent controversy. In it, they apologised for the botched update, which caused a server outage and made getting in-game credits harder. They went on to say, "We know that this is not the Gran Turismo experience you expect, and we will be making a goodwill gesture in the form of a non-paid credit pack of 1 million credits available to those players who may have been affected. You will see this hit your accounts shortly. Make sure you log into the game before April 25th to claim the credits." Personally, I was pleasantly surprised by this part of the statement, but it didn't end there. They then stated that there would be a considerable patch released in the beginning of April that would contain increased rewards in the latter half of world circuits by approximately 100% on average, addition of high rewards for clearing the circuit experience in all gold or all bronze results, increase of rewards on online races, include a total of 8 new 1-hour endurance race events to missions. These will also have higher reward settings. Increase the upper limit of non-paid credits from 20 million to 100 million, and increase the quantity of used and legend cars available at any given time. This is very promising for the future of Gran Turismo 7. To me, it shows a sign of intent that they do want to keep the players on side, and the steps they've taken are definitely in the right direction. So to answer the question posed at the start of the video, microtransactions, corner cutting, and quantity over quality have been the main falling points in the various games since the PlayStation 3 era. Claiming that Gran Turismo has fallen could be seen as somewhat of an overstatement, as they still sell millions of copies, but the quality and attention to detail that got the series where it is has been lacking in recent times. The series needs to work hard in the next few months to try and get public opinion back, as these last few years have been a torrid time for them. They have taken some very important steps, but as I have shown, the decline hasn't only been Gran Turismo 7. I hope they come back bigger and better, but only time will tell.